Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this navy and white snowflake bow using the Terri bow method. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Hi friends, welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. How are you? Come on in. I had a request here on the channel to teach you step by step how to make the Terri bow. So that's what we'll be doing today. The Terri bow is a great bow for wreaths, door swags, lanterns, and mailboxes, and they're really popular during the holiday season. So now's a great time to create this cute, whimsical bow. Let me just take a quick moment to welcome anyone new here to the Stillwater's channel. This channel is all about DIY, wreath, door swag, and embellishments tutorials. We've got new tutorials uploading every single week, and so if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and join us. And of course, to everyone who has been here on the channel for a while, I so appreciate you. Welcome back. You guys, I will leave a full materials and tools list for you below in the description of this video. Let me show you what we'll be using today. You just need your crafting scissors, some standard floral wire. I actually grabbed this from the Dollar Tree, your ruler or a self-healing mat for measuring, and I'll be using the Bowdabra today. You guys, I am not sponsored by Bowdabra, but when I'm making larger or more in-depth bows, those are a little bit tricky for me to do by hand just because my hand gets really sore after a while, to be honest. And so I lean on the Bowdabra to help me with my bow making for those bigger and more bougie bows. And tomorrow, November 1st, we'll be creating a wreath using this beautiful navy and white wreath sign. And so we're going to make the bow today to coordinate with this sign. Also, if you've not ever seen the Bowdabra, let me just show you what it looks like, guys. So it comes to you just like this. It's a pretty simple piece to use. And if you can see, there's actually an opening here right in the center, also along the top. And then it's got this, I call it an arm. I don't know what it's really called. That actually fits right down into the pieces here on your Bowdabra. They're pretty inexpensive. I'll leave a link for these below too in case, this is something of interest to you. So first things first, we need to get our floral wire ready. And I just measure out, 20 inches or so of a piece. And this is just a really thin gauge from the Dollar Tree, as I mentioned earlier, guys. You're going to fold that guy in half like so. Doesn't need to be perfect, but try to marry those ends up. And then you're going to run the floral wire right between these openings on your Bowdabra, just like that. And then to keep them from sliding or getting in your way, just tuck those guys underneath. So that's what it looks like on the bottom. And sit your Bowdabra right on top of those ends. And so you want a vertical placement here. Keep your wand handy, your ruler handy, and your scissors handy. Now, the great thing about the Terri bow is that it offers a lot of depth. It's a great whimsical bow, and it's a pretty simple method when you use a tool to help you. The Terri bow requires 6 layers that will be stacking on top of one another of your ribbon. You can use the same ribbon type the whole way through. You can use 6 different types of ribbon for your bow, or you can mix and match at any degree, but however many types of ribbon you choose, 2 things to keep in mind. 1, they all need to be wired ribbon. That's what helps your bow to maintain its shape. And number 2, you're going to want 6 layers. So in my case, I've chosen 4 different ribbon types. I've got 2 2.5 inch ribbons that I'll be using, and 2 1.5 inch ribbons that I'll be using. Again, all wired. And you'll want to put your widest ribbon on the bottom and work your way up to the more narrow. So we're going to start out with this snowflake 2.5 inch. Let me just trim that end. It's a new roll. I'm going to be dovetailing my ends on this bow. So before I even start building our layers, I'm going to dovetail my end. And to dovetail ends, guys, you're just going to fold your ribbon in half And then on the folded side, not the open side, you'll come down about an inch or so and then cut up diagonally to the corner, just like that. And then when you open your ribbon, you're going to have that pretty dovetail or a V. You could also angle cut if that's your preference. I'm going to keep my ruler handy, and I want a 6-inch tail. So I'm literally just going to measure to the 6-inch mark. And guys, this is approximate. No one's going to be looking for perfection. And then I'm just going to pinch and pleat my ribbon here, like so. I'm going to give that a firm twist because we want the pretty side to always be out, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. And then right where we've twisted, just slide that guy right in this middle opening on your Bowdabra. And I want a 6-inch loop. And so to get the 6-inch loop, guys, we need 12 inches of our ribbon. So I'm going to come out to that 12-inch mark, and I'm going to pinch it together in my fingers. And right where that pinch is, we're going to bring that to the center. We're going to give that a firm, hard twist like so, and right at that twisting spot, we're going to press that all the way down into the center. So we measured 12 inches of our ribbon, but once we folded it over, that gave us the 6-inch loop, and as you can see, it's pretty side up, which is just how we want it. We're going to do that one more time for this ribbon. We're going to measure out 12 inches. We're going to pinch that ribbon together and come right back to the center of our Bowdabra and slide that down in. Now, to make sure your loops are the same size, you can just fold them up if you'd like, and as long as they meet essentially at the same point, you're in a good spot. And we need a 6-inch tail. I'm going to measure out about 6.5 inches because we're going to dovetail. Once I've identified that 6.5-inch mark, just cut your ribbon off. Fold that guy in half like we did earlier. And on the folded side, come down about an inch and cut up diagonally to the corner. And we've just created our next dovetail. And we're ready to move on to the next layer. So before we do so, I'm going to take my Bowdabra arm here and just place that right down in the center. Give it a good push, which scrunches it down. And we'll move on to our next layer. So 1 layer down, 5 to go. Next up, we're going to use the navy and white stripe 2.5 inch. Since we did some hard measurements on this first layer, for the rest of the bow, you're welcome to use your ruler if you would like to do so, or you can just eyeball it again. Guys, no one is ever looking for perfection, nor will they be measuring your tails and loops. At this point, every layer that we add is going to come in smaller than the previous layer by about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to grab my next ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and dovetail the ends, coming down on the folded side about 1 inch and cutting up diagonally. To give me that nice pretty V. And at this point, I'm just going to eyeball from here on out. So I'm going to come in about 1/2 inch shorter than the previous. I'm going to pinch that in the middle, give it a hard twist, and lay that all the way down on top of my previous ribbon layer. Let me just unroll some of my ribbon. I'm going to bring my hand to about 1/2 inch shy of my previous bow, and then I'm going to come in, I'm going to pinch and gather that ribbon, give it a hard twist, slide that guy down in, push that all the way down. We're going to come in about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch shy of the previous bow. I'm going to scrunch and gather that right in the middle, give it a pinch, slide that down into our Bowdabra. As you can see, it's a tad long, so I'm just going to pull on it a little bit to shorten that guy up. We'll run our tail out here to basically right where your loop ended, and Now that we've cut that off, we can dovetail. We'll grab our wand and give that a nice press to condense that ribbon. Scrunch that stack down. Give that a good push. And we've just added our second layer. And on to layer number 3. We're going to come back with our snowflake ribbon again. Whoops. And we're going to dovetail that end. Cutting on the folded side, coming down about 1 inch. Cutting up diagonally. And we're going to let this tail be just a little bit shy of our previous loop. So I'm just going to eyeball that, guys. I'm going to pinch that and then give it a nice hard twist and place that down into the Bowdabra, like so. We're going to make that loop about 1/2 inch shorter than the previous. We'll pinch that guy in the middle. Give that a nice hard twist and place that down in the Bowdabra. We're going to lay our hand in there and we're going to pinch and gather that ribbon in the middle. Pull that down into the Bowdabra. Make sure you're a little bit shy from the previous loop, and we are. We're going to cut off our ribbon right where our loop ends, and then we'll dovetail our end. Grab your Bowdabra piece, press that down on top of your ribbon stack and give it a little scrunch. And we've just completed our 3rd layer of ribbon, and it's on to ribbon number 4. We're going to move to the 1.5 inch wide white glitter ribbon. We're going to dovetail our end. You only come down about 3/4 of an inch on the 1.5 inch ribbon, guys. And we're going to continue our process, just making that layer a little bit shorter. I'm pinching, giving it a nice hard twist, and laying that right on top of our previous. We'll make our loop, give that a pinch, nice hard twist, because we always want that pretty side up. We'll make our next loop a tad smaller. We're coming in about 1/2 inch every single layer, guys. We'll pinch and pleat that in the middle, slide that down into the Bowdabra. And trim off our excess bit, stopping near where that loop ended. And you guessed it, we'll dovetail. Take your Bowdabra piece and scrunch that ribbon stack down. Keep that nice and condensed. And we're going to move on to our solid navy, 1.5 inch. I'm going to dovetail my end. We're going to place that a little bit shorter than the previous. Just going to follow the same recipe all the way through, guys. Give that a hard twist. Lay that down into the Bowdabra. Bring your loop in 1/2 or so inch shorter than the previous. And we'll lay that right on top. Got that a little too short, so I'm just going to pull some extra material here. And we'll make our second loop. Place that right on top. It's a little bit shorter than our previous loop, and we'll trim off the ribbon and then dovetail. We're going to take our Bowdabra arm or wand, I'm reading it now, guys, that it says wand. All this time I didn't know what it was called. I should have just looked. We're going to scrunch that ribbon down nice and snug. And it's time to add our 6th and final bit of ribbon. So we'll dovetail that end. We're going to add that right on top of where we were. So it's a little bit shorter yet. I've pinched and pleated and gave that a hard twist. We'll make our loop just a tad smaller. Give that a pinch and pleat. And a hard twist. And we're going to make our last loop over here. Again, always a little bit shorter than the previous loop. Give that a pinch and pleat. Lay that right on top. We'll run our tail out and dovetail. We're going to take our Bowdabra wand and give that one more final scrunch to really condense our bow stack here. So I'm just giving it a firm but gentle press. We're going to pull that arm out, and now we can pull our wire that we tucked away earlier out from underneath this Bowdabra. And we're going to carefully just pull this stack up. And remember, we folded it in half. Let me zoom in here, guys. And so we've got a loop. Just take your open-ended wire bits from the one side and pull it straight through that loop. And then as you pull it up, just cinch that guy down, just like so. And then we're going to fold this guy over on the back and really cinch that up as tight as you can get it. I'm going to follow up with a white pipe cleaner, guys, just because I know that where I'm going to add this tomorrow. But if you're just using the floral wire, just keep it through that loop, tie it around one more time for cinching purposes. So you can ignore what I'm doing here. This is just for my boat, my wreath tomorrow. But you're just going to want that tight, tight, tight. Truly as tight as you can get it, guys. All right, we can sit our Bowdabra and scissors off to the side. We're finished with those. We've got this bow stack here, or ribbon stack, I should say. And what we're going to do with our bow stack, we're going to continue to make an X pattern with our loops and our tails. So on the bottommost layer, you'll want loops going one way diagonally, tails the other. And then for the next layer, you'll alternate tails and loops, loops and tails, all the way until you get to the top. So we're going to take our bottommost loop. I'm going to hold that pipe cleaner in my fingers so I can keep my center point. So I'm pulling this loop to the left, that tail to the left, and then I'm going to pull this tail to the right, and then that lower level loop to the right. So as you can see, what we've done here is make an X, a tail going one direction and a set of loops going the other. Then for the next layer, you're going to do just the opposite. Since this is a loop, we're going to pull this tail right on top of that loop. We're going to pull the loop and place it on top of the tail. And we'll do the same over here. So you're making a constant layering of an X. We're not going to worry about fluffing those guys out just yet, okay? So as you can see, this is a tail, so now we've added the loop, and you're going to continue that process all the way to the top of your ribbon stack, continuing to make the layers of the X. All right, now that we've made our X, which gets a little sloppy as you go, and that's what you want it to do, We're going to go back through and open those loops up so that they're not flat and rounded. I just stick my hand right in those loops and make them into an oval. Give yourself some grace with fluffing out your bow, guys. This takes a few minutes, but just fluff, fluff, fluff those loops. And there it is, guys. We've just completed a Terri bow. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, friends. Happy crafting.